Good morning, church family. Good morning. If you've got your Bibles, open those to John chapter 5. The book of John in chapter 5. 31 now, and I think I finally got a teensy bit of maturity under my belt. Starting to learn some things about the results of what we do. You ever heard the phrase, you get out of something what you put in it? I think about how good a shape some people are that like to work out and like to be in the gym, and I think, what I put in my body is exactly why I am where I am and why I'm not where I would really want to be. And you think about the cost, and it's no different than with who we are as a person than with our worship. If I mumble through my worship to God and my praise to God, and I do it in a sleepy way, my worship and praise is probably going to be sleepy, and I'm probably going to get pretty bored with it and feel that there's nothing coming out of it because I'm not putting anything in it. And this morning, what a glorious opportunity we've had to praise our God. And what a wonderful time to be able to sing His praises and join together to encourage one another. And in John chapter 5, there's a guy that is going to get brought up that he's in a situation where you're going to get out of something what you put into it. And he's in a situation where he's got to decide who he is. He's got to decide what he's made of. And the examples of how he reacts gives us so much insight to who we are today. Watch chapter 5, verse number 1. After these things there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there was in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethsaida, having 5 porticos. And in these lay a multitude of those who were sick, blind, lame, withered, waiting for the moving of the waters. For an angel of the Lord went down in certain seasons into the pool and stirred up the water. Whoever then first after the stirring of the water stepped in was made well from whatever disease with which he was made afflicted. And a man there who had been ill for 48 years. How cool would this place be to go? A place where if you are sick, if you've got an issue, if you've got a problem, you can get in the water, you can be made well. These things can be changed. Things that you had no control over can be made different. It would be like walking into the hospital with no wait. And the medicine they give you had no recovery time. You were able to get better immediately. Now, if we go to the hospital today, many times we avoid it for a couple reasons. Either the hospital makes us uncomfortable because we don't like shots, we don't want to have a surgery, and we don't want to get the MRI to find out that we're going to have a surgery. We don't want to deal with the consequences of being in the hospital that long. We don't want to wait in the waiting room because you're going to get there and all you really need is a piece of Tylenol, but you're going to have to wait 2 hours in the waiting room just for them to give you the Tylenol and send you home. And you're going to be there and it's going to be exhausting, it's going to be frustrating, but here at this pool you can be made well immediately. Things can change immediately. And there is a guy there, if you notice in verse number 5, who had been ill for 38 years. Can you imagine 38 years of the same sickness? 38 years of the same problems. 38 years of whatever it is that is keeping him from being whole. And he's been there for 38 years. He gets to this pool and he's there and he's wondering, how am I going to get better? Verse number 6. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been a long time in that condition, he said to him, "Do you wish to get well?" Some translations, New King James, will tell you, "Do you wish to be made whole?" Do you want to get better? That's a stupid question. That's like walking into the waiting room at the hospital to somebody that's been waiting an hour and a half and saying, "Hey man, do you want us to help you? Why do you think I'm here?" You see, that's not really what Jesus is asking. What Jesus is asking this man is, are you willing to do what it takes for things to get better? Some people in our lives get so content in their own misery that they don't really want anything to change. Some of us get our attention from the negativity that we let people know we're going through. Some of us enjoy the attention we get from sharing gossip, from sharing problems. Some of us enjoy just staying in the place that we are, and we don't really want to do anything to change it. Now, I think about me, and I told you I'm in the shoes that I'm in because of what I put into my body. I don't go to the gym. I don't run anymore. I quit jump roping way too soon. All the things that I want to be good at. I would love to be in great shape. I'd love to be able to run and smoke land down any road that we could run down. But I can promise you that does not happen because of the way that I spend my time versus the way that he spends his time. Now, I want to be in good shape, but I keep giving up on it before I get to where I want to be. And so when I ask myself, what do I want? The real question is Am I willing and desiring to do the things that it takes to get the results that I want? What Jesus is asking this man is the same question he'll ask each of us every day of our lives. Do you want to go to heaven? He's not saying, do you want to be in heaven? Duh. Every person in existence wants to go to heaven. What he asks each one of us when he says, take up your cross daily, is he says, are you willing to do what it takes to ensure that heaven is your home? Because you see, it's not just a free pass and a free ride. You get out of things what you put into things. Granted, you will never earn your place in heaven. But God gave us a set standard of a roadmap to say this is the path you need to walk to get to the place that you want to be. Are you willing to do what it takes? So when he gets to this point, this man of 38 years of being sick, he's been sitting in this spot for 38 years physically of not being able to make himself better. He gets to this pool and Jesus says, do you want to get well? Of course I want to be well. Man, do you want to do what it's going to take to get out of the situation that you're in? Watch a little bit further into those verses, verse number 7. The sick man answered, Sir, I have no man to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me. He makes this reasoning with his own self. To me, that's saying, of course I do, but the cheeseburgers are delicious, and I want 3 more. And key lime pie's on the menu, so of course I'm going to have that. And by then, if I go running, I'll throw up, so I'm not going running. I'll find a reason not to do the things that I know I need to do. Do you want to get to heaven? Yeah, but I don't want to give up my TV show. Do you want to go to heaven? Yeah, but when I get mad, I need people to know how mad I am, so I'm not going to change my language. Do you want to get to heaven? Yeah, but there's so many denominations and opinions, it's just frustrating and it stresses me out, so I'm not even going to worry with religion. I'm going to ignore anything with the church because there's so much arguing. There's hypocrites in the church down the road. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. But yeah, I do want to go to heaven. We say we want to be somewhere, but we've got every reason in the world why it's not working out for us. I want you to think about some things that might rob you of the place that you want to be and give you some examples. Now, what are some things that can cause us not to do what we need to do? Think about a lack of caring. A lack of caring. Sometimes we meet people and it's just simply hard to care about God. For a lot of people, that's true. You know, they might know that God exists, but they don't really care that He exists. They might know that the Bible is His Word, but they don't really care about the Bible. Why is that? I want you to think about the prodigal son. The prodigal son goes to his dad and he says, Dad, I want you to go ahead and give me my inheritance now. I want to go and do my own thing. And what's his dad do? He says, okay, if that's what you want, here's your inheritance. While the young man is away, what does he do? He spends his time partying, living it up, just doing whatever he wants to do. You know what he's not thinking about? He's not thinking about how heartbroken his dad is at home. He's not thinking about the time that his dad invested to try to raise him and to help him. He's not thinking about the fact that someone misses him. He's just enjoying the time doing whatever he wants to do. And when we get so wrapped up in self that the only person that we serve is self, we forget about the things that actually matter. And so when you get these issues, when you have these struggles in front of you, these temptations, it is so easy to reach a point of lack of caring. The young man didn't care about his dad while he was gone. He didn't even think about it. He was just blowing the inheritance money that he got and doing his own thing. That can do one of two things. It can either lead us further away, hopefully it can lead us back. The same way the prodigal son realizes when he runs out of money, what do I need? You see, something that we run out of before we even get started is the ability to give forgiveness. We don't have that ability. We don't have the ability to forgive sins. Only God can do that. And when God forgives those sins, hopefully that's something that we pay attention to. And where we spend our time, what does the son do? He remembers dad. He remembers home. And he returns. Because the place that he wants to spend his time now is the place that has value. And it brings him to his remembrance of the things that matter. When you think about what else could be something that could cause us to fall away, to slip away to the point that we just don't care, think about a lack of seeking facts, biblical facts. Many of us don't believe in God, or we have friends that don't believe in God because they say, well, that's just a myth. It's just a book of things that make people want to do other stuff. When you think of Saul, Saul believed in good conscience he was doing everything fine. The same way there's many people out on the lake today that believe everything is fine. Saul's problem is he had been informed of the wrong things. He hadn't sought after the facts of when the Old Testament was ended and the New began. He goes around and he's killing people and watching them be murdered. He stands by and holds the cloak of a guy named Stephen, and he doesn't care at all. He believes what he is doing is right. What will he do when he receives the facts? Because the question becomes the same thing for us. Things that can cause us to sit around and do nothing, oftentimes are because we don't search for facts. Why does God tell me to live a certain way? Why does God say that certain things were the way they were? Why does he say that we are who we are today? Why does God say to use certain words and not to use others? Why does God tell me to sing praises to him? I don't really get that. It doesn't make sense to me. When you seek the facts and find the answers, guys like Saul become guys like Paul. And it changes lives. But one of our biggest struggles is we don't want to take the time to seek the facts. Just like I don't want to put down the extra cheeseburger and I don't want to have to go out there and run. Spiritually, many of us are dying because we won't seek the facts. We're just like Saul, believing we're going to be okay in the end, when the truth is we need to find the answers. Maybe it's a lack of involvement. See, there's a certain guy in Scripture. He uses these two words. He says that he was almost persuaded. Can you imagine that being where you were spiritually? Almost persuaded. I really thought about being a Christian. I really thought about changing the things that I need to change. I really thought about getting better at controlling myself, but it's just an almost thing. I didn't really have the ability to get involved enough. We just talked about singing. What you put in is what you get out. Singing was designed to do two things. It was designed to give glory to God, first and foremost. And secondly, it was designed that we would encourage one another through our worship service. So when we don't encourage someone, we're probably not going to get much encouragement out of it either. And when we just kind of mumble our way through something or maybe not even sing at all, of course singing doesn't seem like it matters because we've never experienced it. I don't know how delicious that key lime pie is if I don't go try it, and that's why I keep trying it. I want to know. Do you want to know why God instructed us to sing his praises? If you want to know, find out. Get involved. When we sing out, and I love when Robert Tipson's singing. It gets me fired up. Because when you can see that someone cares enough about their God that they're going to put their heart and soul into it, it's contagious. And that is exactly why God said that singing was designed for us to encourage one another. Because anytime you lead singing, I can't help but smile while I'm singing. I'm thinking, man, that dude's on fire, and I want that kind of passion. And if I want that kind of passion, God gave me the example of Robert Tips, so I had a man that I could follow his example as he follows Jesus' example. That's the strength of the church, that we have one another, that we can follow one another. When the apostles write these things out and they teach these lessons, and they say, follow our example, that wasn't by mistake. And when we look at men that we want to be like, when we're inspired by other Christian individuals, will we follow their example or will we just brag on them some other time? I can brag on him all day long, but if I don't follow the example of a godly man, I will never reach the point of being a godly man. So when we look into the scriptures and we're asking ourselves, do we want to see the effects of the things that God laid out for us? Are we putting ourselves into those things? When you want to see effects of what something can do, think about the rich young ruler. What happens with him? He's not just rich, he's also young. I don't think those two words are there by mistake. I don't think that his age was brought up because of no reason at all. This rich young ruler has all this stuff, and Jesus tells him, do you want to go to heaven? He says, man, I've kept all these laws. I've done really good. You know, I've at my house, it would have been like, I've cleaned my room, Mom. I did what I was supposed to do. I've taken care of things, and I've picked them up. Yeah, but son, you just shoved it under the bed. You didn't actually clean it. So the issue here with this man is he's worked on his life. He's done so many things, and something that can keep us from being able to get the results that we want is the lack of being able to see the effects of the things that we're doing. He says, I've done all this stuff, now what do I need to do? He is so distracted by other stuff that he never even realizes there was something blocking him. He's got his checklist. He's distracted by that. He's checked it off. And then Jesus tells him, he says, you want to be whole, you want to get to heaven, go sell all you have and give it to the poor. You tell most of the people that are in the church today to sell everything they've got, they're going to laugh at you, tell you that it ain't worth it, and they're going to go back home. Majority. And that is a hard truth. To know that we get so attached to stuff that we will spend 40 hours a week at our job, another 40 hours a week working on stuff, and never really get down to the spiritual things until Sunday morning rolls around. That is a scary place to live. And just like the rich young ruler, many will walk away sorrowful because you're going to find out one day it didn't really add up to very much. One of the other things, and the last thing I want to bring up that can cause us to get to a place, sin can block us from seeing the effects that God designed us to have. Sin can block us from being able to see the results of prayer that God intended for us to be able to see. Sin can block us from seeing the Christian fellowship that God intended there to be because it divides us. Sin will tear us apart to the point that we can't see the good of the church because the good goes away when we start ripping it up through sin. When you think of excuses, it's somebody else's fault, isn't it? Every problem we've got is somebody else's fault. I think about when I was younger, and this is another cheesy, I like cheesy stories because they're easy to understand. My dad told me when I was younger that he wanted to have the biggest truck in town. And you know, when I was really little, I remember he had this, I think it was a 78 or 79 Chevrolet. It was white. It was called Casper. He's got a trophy from a mud bog with the North Volunteer Franklin County Fire Department. From I think it was second or third place in this mud bog that he'd been in. And he was going to have the biggest truck. And was it 38s that you had on it? 40s. See, I knew it. 40s. So he puts the 40-inch tires on this thing. And he says he's going to have the biggest truck that's in town. He pulls up to a red light and looks in his rearview mirror. And there's a set of headlights in his rearview mirror. Somebody's sitting higher than he is. We will spend our life chasing things when we compare ourselves to someone else. And someone will always be bigger. Someone will always have nicer. You can chase the money, the fame, the fortune. You can chase the stuff. You can chase the stuff that you think that you want. And there will always be something that's around us to compare to that's even more. Even bigger, even better, even meaner, even more aggressive, even nicer, even more luxurious. We can chase for our lives to the point it exhausts us and never get there. And get to the point that we've ignored God for so long chasing something that we can't reach that we don't even recognize anymore who God is. And that's a terrifying place to live. And so when you think about what it means that sometimes we can have excuses, well, I wanted more because. I wanted to do it this way because. I wanted it my way because. I'm not in the shape that I want to be in because. Spiritually, you're not in the shape you want to be in because you made a decision of how to spend your time. Spiritually, we often are not made well spiritually because of decisions that we make, not somebody else. It's not somebody else's fault when we get to our judgment day if God does not say, enter in that good and faithful servant. It's not the fault of our parents for the way they raised us. It's not the fault of the people at school for the way they distracted us. It's not the fault of the paycheck that was so nice that we just wanted more of it. It wasn't the fault of the stuff that frustrated us to the point that we lost our temper. It is no one's fault but our own. If we get to our judgment day and heaven's not our home. So when we look at this man, he makes this excuse in chapter 5, verse number 6. He says, a man was there who had been ill 38 years. When Jesus saw him laying there, he knew that he had already been in that condition a long time. He said to him, do you wish to get well? Do you want to do what it takes to get better? What's the dude immediately respond with? The sick man answered, sir, I have no man to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. Somebody's always in my way. For the rest of your life, somebody called Satan will always be in your way. Every step of the way, he's going to be in your way. What are you going to do about it? You see, there's only one person that's going to make this better. There's only one way this situation gets better. He can't get in the pool fast enough. You can't get in the water fast enough. He can't get himself better. He can't take a pill or a medicine. He can't create something that's going to make things better. He can't offer himself grace. And neither can you. And so he gets to this situation. He tells Jesus, he says, man, I don't know what to do. Have you ever been in a place in your life where you just don't know what to do? Overwhelmed. I want to get spiritually strong. I don't even know where to start. I want to lead my family, and I want my family to go to heaven, but I don't really know how to get them to do what I want them to do. how to get them to be where I want them. I want my friends to be closer to God. I want them to just acknowledge God. But I don't know how to force somebody to realize that God exists. I can teach them all day, but it's got to be up to them to make the decision. What am I supposed to do? It's when you give it to Jesus. That is the only place you're going to find an answer. That is the only person in this world that can give you an answer. And that's the only person that when we gather together, where is he at? He's here with us. He is gathered this morning all over the world with the saints that are all over the world. When the church comes together, he says, I'm there, I'm with you. Will you acknowledge him? You can ignore him. You know what happens to a person you ignore long enough? They don't pay attention to you either. And I'm not saying Jesus doesn't pay attention to you. But when you ignore someone long enough, it's going to feel like they don't exist anymore. And so many of us spiritually ignore Jesus for so long that we feel like he's not there anymore. The greatest thing that we've ever been given, though, is we can change that. The word repentance literally means to change that. That you're going one direction, you turn to go the other. I've been walking away from you for a long time, God. But I want to change that. I'm coming back to you. I know I've got to get rid of some things that are pulling me in this direction. Do you want to be made well? That's the question Jesus asked this man. If he wants to be made well, he can only get better one way because he can't get in the water fast enough. He's not healthy enough to put himself in a position to make himself better. He can't stay there for an amount of time without somebody stepping in front. There will always be someone in your way. What will you do about that? So right here at the end of these verses, Jesus is going to tell him something. Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your pallet, and walk. Do you want to do what it's going to take to be made well? Look, Jesus, you can make me well, but picking up my bed is exhausting. I mean, that's a lot to do. I mean, I got to pick up. I've been sitting here for all this time. Now I used to be really good at it, and I'm trying to get good at it again, making the bed when I get out of the bed, because, man, that just makes my wife's day. I mean, like, I can literally see the difference in how the day goes based on what I do first thing in the morning. And so when I think about that, and I used to be really good at it, I'd make the bed, and then, I go, and she'd make every now and then, she'd be like, I just love it when you do that. And for some reason, it got to be so taskingly exhausting that I kind of quit doing it, and I could feel the way that the household changed because I stopped doing that. If I can't discipline myself to do something as simple as making the bed, what makes me think I should reap the benefits of everything that should have been there? If I don't serve, how do I expect to be served? If I'm not willing to serve, how do I expect my family to follow an example that I won't set myself? As something as simple as taking up a bed. When Jesus asked, do you want to be made well? That means you're going to have to pick your bed up. You're going to have to make an effort. You're going to have to do something that you might not always want to do. I don't like making the bed. I'd rather just slip my shoes on and out the door I go. But taking the time to do something matters. Even more spiritually than any physical thing you've ever faced. And so Jesus says, are you willing to take up the bed? Are you willing to make the effort? What will you do? He says, I want you to get up. I want you to take up your pallet, and I want you to walk. What's this guy going to do? Immediately the man became well. He picked up his pallet. He began to walk. What things do you wish you could gather up and move forward? What things in your life do you need that opportunity for? When Jesus asked you, do you want to be made well? Are you willing to do what it takes? Will you put in the effort? What will you do? And when we get up and we've got that opportunity, is that what we want? Because we've got that opportunity every single day. We've just got to make the decision. It will cost you. It is not something that you can do and say, yeah, I want that, and it just comes free. It comes free of charge, but it does not come free of effort. You cannot purchase grace. You cannot work hard enough to receive it in a way that you've earned it. God gives you something for free. When I was a kid and I would do things that I knew I shouldn't do, you know what I knew was coming? Punishment. You live your life doing things you know you shouldn't do. You know punishment's coming. And when you get forgiveness, and when you ask, I messed up, I know I did, I'm sorry. You're not guaranteed forgiveness. You're not. That's what makes forgiveness valuable. It's because forgiveness is triggered by love. It's made valuable because somebody loves you. And when you're told, you know what, I forgive you. When you do something you just messed up on, forgiveness has value. And that's what grace is about. That Jesus loves you enough to say it's okay. And we're going to move forward. Take up your pallet. Let's get to walking. Maybe this morning you need to take up that pallet. Maybe we need to start stepping forward. What are you going to do this morning as we stand and as we sing?